Are you on mute, James? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Now I can hear you.
All right. Okay. How's it going, my brother? Been a while since we've talked. I believe this is the first time we've actually been face to face.
Yeah, face to face, virtually face to face.
At least we're face to face. I'm still trying to get down there to watch a fight, of course. But even though I've had both of my shots, and we had my 14-day waiting period, I'm still a little leery about jumping in the airport.
Folks should be.
So
people tripping, man. People tripping. You open things up, everybody want to go wild, man.
And I'm definitely not going to Hollywood, Florida, to watch my guy fight. But
ain't that serious.
But anyway, man, how have things been, and how's your work with the kids?
That's good. Everything's been good, man. It's hard. Haven't been coaching basketball, obviously because COVID and whatnot. So COVID shut down. Before I was coaching my niece's basketball team. But then when COVID hit, so we had to shut that down. So yeah, I haven't been coaching kids, but always try to make sure that I'm tapped in. Some of the kids I've coached in the past, making sure they're okay. A lot of my kids that I've coached in the past are now in college, graduating college. So making sure if they need Coach Wiley any which way they need me, I'm there for them.
Coach Wiley, you almost catching up with me here.
Look, man. I call this. This is why I call it. So I'll be going by Woe Lake. This is my Nigerian, my caveman Nigerian look right now. I don't even. This is the COVID Nigerian. I want it just to grow. I don't even care about having a James Harden kind of thing. I just want it to grow. You know what I mean? There's no rhyme or reason to my beard. That's what I tell folks all the time. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Well, hey, I'm a little older than you, and this is, even with COVID,
but you got the slicks on that, but no, you know what I'm saying? You got the slick one, though.
Well, see, that's called age. Yeah. In case anybody is listening and watching, we don't crack. You right?
We don't crack.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. Ain't that the truth?
So, I got a list of prepared questions, but I'm going to jump around here because you do a lot with kids.
Mm-hmm.
Have been ever since I known you before COVID, and I imagine once this is over with, you'll still be working with kids. So, what's your opinion of opening up schools, and how much risk does it present to the children and the teachers?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I know I'm not. I just feel like the kids are, regardless of what we may know or don't know. Everything's not for certain. You know what I mean? And these kids are still young, and they're the future. And you don't want to do anything that can possibly hinder those kids health wise, and for the teachers too. You don't know what certain people not everybody doesn't believe in vaccination, right? That's just we know that in any illness and whatnot. So we don't know if these teachers have anything. So. And these kids are too young to get vaccinated. So now you're still playing a role within that situation if the teachers are vaccinated. I don't know, depending on the states and whatnot. Certain states they're going to probably make it mandatory if a teacher to be vaccinated or whatnot. But I'm just saying that you're putting a lot out there for a place where somebody can get affected by this virus if not taken care of. And we've already found a way to make it work by having kids, being taught at home with, Zoom or whatever type of virtual platform that you're using. So, kids are getting educated and they're learning, and we found that we can make it work even through this platform. So why would you risk it and rush it? I feel like there's a lot of money being played. Like a lot of this stuff is all about money. So we already know. So it's, with this, sports, everything. It's all about money. Schools, everything. It's about money. So, I feel like we got to stop valuing that over, the health of people. Really, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I was talking about that Thursday on the Sportscast when we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about the NBA players and how they were
Mm-hmm.
talking about giving them, extra incentives if they got vaccinated. But these people are making millions and millions of dollars. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so I mean, I don't see the there. I mean, I see the importance because we do need sports, but what would I rather have? You know. Vaccinated. Lou Dockage or my child's 12th grade teacher.
Of course, definitely.
you know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, doesn't seem like we quite see it that way. But if you remember, early in the pandemic, we had three teachers that didn't have students, and two of them got COVID.
Yeah.
Remember? You remember?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and now they're talking about if a woman gets vaccinated and she's pregnant, perhaps she'll pass the immunity on to her children. Once again, I say perhaps.
Perhaps.
So and you have uh, these companies now talking about perhaps vaccinating children.
Yeah. But
Now,
they're not ready for that yet, though. They're not. See, they're
well,
working on it, but it's not ready for it yet. They would like to, but they don't know in terms of how that can, health wise, how that may impact these kids. And it may have side effects and whatnot. So I'm just saying, like, to me, rushing having these kids go to school because to for what? And at the end of the day, they're coming back to school late. School's about to end. Like you're having to come back at the end of the pretty much at the end of for whatever a semester or whatever period that you go through in terms of whatever you are within the schooling system. Why even worry about having kids go back to school now?
well, and I guess this might be a cynical way of looking at it, but I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of teachers, a lot of parents, you
Mm-hmm.
know, actually, uh, when you talk about getting tired of your kids, well,
Yeah,
those
I
are
think that's
your
what.
kids,
Yeah.
So I mean, so we're actually, I think, in a lot of cases, looking for babysitters. We're not looking for educators.
Yeah, I agree. No,
You
I
know,
agree. I think that's a lot. No, I think that plays a part too. I think you have a lot of parents who are more like, you know what, this is taking so much of my time and whatnot. Let me just pass them off to the, to the teachers and whatnot, because I'm here with them all the time and I can't get stuff done or whatnot. I think that's a great point, to be honest with you. I think that definitely is a factor. That is one factor. But again, at the end of the day, man, it's all about health. And I feel like anything you want to cherish in life, you know what I'm saying? You got to cherish an innocent kid's life because they don't have any responsibility in the matter. They have no power in the matter, right? It's not like they're not adults. Make sure that you cultivate an environment that make sure could be as healthy as possible, can learn as much, and can live a joyful life. That's it. That's your job, as an adult when you're dealing with a kid.
point blank, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But now, also, talking about people of color
Mm-hmm.
and talking about children, as well as people of color, because we know what we have been through.
Mm-hmm.
We, we know about, the different experiments.
Yeah.
Uh, but even I, at the age of 74, I mean, most of these experiences took place even before my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still the skepticism, which I can understand because
Yeah.
if you did it once, what's to prevent you from doing it again?
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, who's to oversee and say that it's not going to happen again? So, do you
Mm-hmm.
find a lot of resistance in the Black community toward the vaccine?
Yeah, you got people who are anti-vaccine. There's a lot of yeah. I don't want to say that's the majority. I don't want to say it's the majority, but it's a nice number of anti in terms of black community. Anti-vaccine because of what happened in the past, and to be point blank. Period. A lot of people just don't trust They don't trust. I don't want to be like I don't want to say everything. They just don't trust certain,
Hey,
and it is what it is.
this is my show. You can say what you want.
I don't trust white people, man. A lot of them don't trust white people. All right, it is what it is. And so just they don't. So where the vaccine, like a lot of even to a certain extent, you're like, hey, I'm gonna wait this vaccine out, and I'm gonna see what happens with the rest before I decide to jump on it. You know what I mean? Because again, it goes to the point where a lot of black folks don't trust, the government don't trust white people, and that's what it is. And then you get to a point, you get to a point where even, there's multiple vaccines, right? Multiple vaccine companies in terms of like Johnson & Johnson, Moderna and whatnot. So now you're trying to figure out, now you got black people who are more concerned of, when they're asked to get the vaccine, are they going to give me the least effective one rather than the effective one? Will they give the most effective vaccine to white people and not give it to black people? Yeah, people who think that way. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people, as long as you educate yourself, you know what it is, what vaccines are out there, the effectiveness of the vaccine. And you've done your research, then you can if that does happen when they try to pass on some bootleg vaccine to you, you can argue your point and say, I don't want that. I want the white vaccine for me because that's the one that's more that's more effective. But it's always gonna be like that in the community, James. You already know. You know how it is, man.
I actually went through that when I decided to take the vaccine myself, and it was the Pfizer, and it was the Moderna, and at that particular time they were talking about AstraZeneca. Now, I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but once again, I do read my history, and when I found out that AstraZeneca wanted to take their vaccine to third world countries before they decided to test it on their own, white people once again, and I'm not racist, but I mean, once I found out that they would rather test it in third world countries rather than in their own, then I kind of shied away from the AstraZeneca.
Gotcha.
I ended up with the Moderna. I was very satisfied with it. So far, I haven't had any side effects.
Blessings. God is good.
Yeah. But I do want to stick with the schools. Your position when we talk about kids going back to school, and of course you have to talk about the curriculum. Yeah. So do you think that I might even come off tonight as racist. I don't know, but anyway, like I said, this is my, this is my show. So do you think that systemic racism is being perpetuated by our educational system?
I don't know. It depends on where you like. I live in a black county, so it's a little different. I live in a black county, so we don't get it as much in our county. To be honest with you, I mean, you get it in certain, not in our educational systems, but in terms of if you're going to compare it to like a white county, maybe a white county has the schooling system a little bit different in terms of what they set up, and that in certain jurisdictions and whatnot. Even though our county, PG County, in Maryland is a wealthy black county. It's probably I think it was one of the richest black counties in all of the United States.
Right.
It is. So
Yeah. It's in the top 10.
It's in the top 10. So it's different. So I don't want to make it seem like we're struggling. We're not struggling, but at the end of the day, when you compare it to like a neighboring county, it's a white county, and you see the schooling systems, their schooling systems are better than our schooling systems, which is something that, either you want to talk about the governor and the Maryland governor, who's very popular right now. It's something that he's kind of has to get situated, or he's probably focused more in those counties rather than, a PG County or, Baltimore or whatnot. That's something that does need to be fixed. Our schooling systems used to be better. It could be a lot better. So you can use that. You can say, and the only difference from between that is from our county, and our county is not too long. Like PG County is not too far from Montgomery County. Montgomery County is like probably a hop, skip, and a jump, right around the corner, and their schooling system is way more better, but it's a predominantly white county.
Okay.
I think Howard County too. That they're good county. They're good schooling system, and that's a more of a mixture.
Okay, all right. Melting pot, I guess. I guess to be politically correct, I guess we have to call it a melting
pot. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, once again, I'm sticking with this chocolate city thing here.
Go for it.
Statehood. Mm-hmm. Do you think that DC will get statehood under Biden?
It should. I mean, it should. Yeah, why not?
We should have been free in 1860.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it's DC. Like, it's ridiculous that it's not. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, it's his own entity. It should. I just feel like it's been too long. But that's politics. People just they don't want to get electoral college. That's going to automatically help them. That may affect the electoral college and crap like that. It is what it is, man. It's DC. You know what I'm saying? So I don't. To me, it should be. Definitely should be. I don't think it's not even a question.
What do you think is the biggest holdup? I mean, now we have two senators that say that they'll definitely back the bill. I mean, I think Maxine Waters is. She's backed the bill since before she had to put on that gray wig.
Yeah, Mayor Bowser. Well, I mean, the holdup is always going to be, in every state, every political position. It's we have an immature Congress. It is what it is. We just do. It's not
immature Congress. They're older than I am. I mean,
I know, they've been immature. That's crazy. That's what's so funny. It's like they run pretty much like a high school political scene, and they brought it to to represent the whole United States of America. And it's like no one wants to do what's best for the country. It's all about how can they help themselves when within lobbyists, within even their political positioning. So how their vote can impact their positioning within their whole contingency. So it's crazy. It really is. So that's to me. I've learned that in all the politics, the things that hold it up is more on the inside of those doors in Congress is just like the immaturity, and it's about not helping the next man or not helping the people. It's about how can you help yourself, and that pretty much manifest throughout the whole system, and why you can't get crap done. And that's one of the main reasons why DC hasn't been called a state, because you got a lot of BS within the Congress that don't want it to happen.
What do you think about all of these new laws that the Republicans are trying to pass? What is there? One law in Georgia, you can't give someone that's standing in line a drink of water or a sandwich,
while voting.
Yeah, while they're waiting in line to vote.
Yeah. Man, which one? You know the answer to that. Come on, man, don't do that to me. You already know the answer to that. You know the answer to that. Just trying to make sure black people can't vote, man. What we doing here?
Okay, but once again, I'm going to go back to my history. Yeah. Because I was born in 1947. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember, going around back to have to eat, you know what I'm saying? I remember the colored only. I remember the speeches of Martin Luther King. My dad probably had all of them. They were on the big what were they, 78 RPM LPs. Mm-hmm. And I look at HR 1, mm-hmm. and coming before your time, I also look back at the Civil Rights Act of 1968. Well, in 1968, I wasn't in this country Fortunately, I was in Vietnam, and I thought
Okay.
it was much safer over there than it
Oh,
was over.
really? Yeah. Okay.
Check your history. What was
Okay.
happening in
Yeah. Yeah.
1968,
Yeah.
brother?
That's true. That's true.
You know, Newark was
Facts.
burning.
Facts. Facts.
You know, I
Mm.
lived in Newark. My house was on fire. You know, so what am I going home for?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just before that, in 1967. I was part of the force that went into Detroit to quell the riots there.
Mm.
So, when I look back at these civil rights bills that were signed by Johnson and then later in the 70s, I look at, some of the things that were before Jimmy Carter. And how is it that 50 years later, I'm basically waiting for the same bill, H.R. 1,
Mm-hmm.
that was supposedly passed in 1968, the Civil Rights Act that gave me the right to vote,
Mm-hmm.
told me I could go to school with the white folks. Not only that, but my grandkids were able to go with the white folks too if they wanted to. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, they put us on buses to make sure that we got, that we went. So actually, I don't see how much has changed when I'm still trying to get the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
That John Lewis got, like I said, in 1968,
Mm-hmm.
when John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their hands in the Olympics. I was fighting for America in South Vietnam,
Mm.
which it didn't make any sense, but it was safe to
Mm-hmm.
me. To me,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I knew the enemy, or at
Yeah.
least I knew where he was supposed
Yeah.
to be.
Hold the enemy supposed to be. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. I got.
but it was the same thing here. I
Mm-hmm.
knew who the enemy was. I knew where he was supposed to be, but most of the time he lived next door.
Mm-hmm.
And I find the same thing with Trump. I have people now that I know had Trump signs in their yard,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a couple of them that we don't talk anymore since 2016. I mean, it's kind of by mutual because
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the rhetoric.
Of course. Man. Yeah. Of course.
I've already heard it,
Yeah.
but it seems that your generation is a little more susceptible to turning the other cheek. So,
Mm.
is that
To
our
Trump?
fault? No, no. I mean to the whole situation. The situation as a whole, because otherwise we wouldn't still be talking about voting rights in 2021.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that that's a good question. I just think that it obviously it's the stigma. What happened with when 45 got into office, he's magnified everything and to a point where empowered politicians, empowered people. And I don't think that it's anybody's fault. What it did was we got comfortable. Put it that way. That's the best way. We
Thank
got
you,
really
thank
comfortable.
you. That's
We got real
what I'm talking
comfortable. We
about.
got comfortable
Okay.
before Trump. We got real comfortable. We got comfortable to the point where you had the first black president and President Obama. You have Bill Clinton. When Obama. Let's put it like this: Obama, because Bush, we were kind of like, yeah. But when Obama came into office, he was preaching unity, preaching change. We're thinking like, okay, they were able to vote in a black president. So obviously, we're thinking that change is really happening because you're looking past skin tone. So we got comfortable. Truth be told, with Obama, we got really, really comfortable with Obama. So once he left, and we saw that this dude who was spitting rhetoric that was divisive, and he was able to forget if he really beat Hillary or not. It was close enough for it to happen. When we saw that, when folks saw that, that was a wake up call. But prior to that, like to your point, yes, I feel like we were sleeping on it, and then to that whole process through his term, obviously, we were all still in it. We're like, okay, like this is racist. Everybody has started like, people. We had more people were more socially active. Obviously basketball players have been active, athletes, people in the community. So we were all preaching, okay, we got to overcome this. We got to fight for the cause. We had obviously what happened with, the killings and whatnot. It played a part to it, showing us, okay, this world hasn't changed. So yes, we were awakened. But now the thing that we have to make sure that we don't fall back into, to what you're referring to, James, is that since Biden's the president and we don't have the hate rhetoric that we saw with Trump, that we have to acknowledge that, it's still what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because, a lot of people have voted for Biden because of Trump, we still know, because of the votes that we saw, that this dude still was able to get through his campaign. I'm talking about 45.
74 million.
Yeah. So you already know, it is what it is. This world is divided. Whatever percentage you want to put on it, it's divided. And we saw that with the Capitol. To be bold enough to do that to the Capitol. If that was a bunch of black people, I already know what would have happened. So
can you say 50 caliber machine gun?
Oh, I know what it is, man. There's no way, man. I told you, man. Look, man, there's no way you can make it. There's certain place. There's no way you can make it if you make it that far up, to even do that. Black dude, come on, man. One dude, man. They're ready to shoot that dude down.
You see, once again, I have to call on history, because I think it was either 2017 or 2018 when a black woman made a wrong turn at a checkpoint in D.C. And I believe she had her daughter in the car, and they lit the car up. I think that was 2017.
I don't remember. I'm sure it could. It's the city. I just know it's a bunch of politicians. All I know is it's a bunch of politicians. This is the thing. Think about it. A bunch of politicians, mostly white politicians, are at the Capitol, and nobody. And you got a hostile crowd trying to go bulge in there, and you don't know what's going on, and nobody's really checking them that early before they get to that point. Again, let that be some bean pie eating folks, and I guarantee you, shots are fired.
Hey, we're laughing because we know it's true, but it's really, it's really not a funny situation. It's sad for you. So just think of ideas for somebody like me that was probably born 30, 40 years before you. In my youth, I reverted toward Black Panther culture.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put it like this: I was never a turn the other cheek, nonviolent type of individual. Okay. So I was not a part of the MLK movement. I was part of the kick your ass movement if you put your hands on me, But there's certain things. It's just, even today I stay in my lane, but that don't mean that you're supposed to get out of yours.
Of course.
I promised I'd only keep you, a half an hour. I've already taken you a minute over your time. So,
oh my God, my God, man. Anytime you need me, you let me know, man. I'm gonna try to make it work. I'm not gonna lie. I will try to make it work.
Hey, bro. The only thing I can say is, any show you come on of mine, I try to keep it real.
I know. Hey.
So
every platform, James, you keep it real. You know what I'm saying? Every platform.
Yeah, I don't know how to be nobody but me. I'm sorry.
But James, that's what you're supposed to be, though. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be you. Like everybody gets on these little things who try to change their voice, try to change their dialect. It kills me. Be you, man. Like this is the platform you wanted, right? Be you. Why you doing it if you ain't trying to be you? Stephen A. Smith is being Stephen A. Smith. He making that bag. Let him. That's what he want to do. Don't be him. You know what I'm saying? Don't be. Be you. Be you.
Yes, I hear you. Hey, Wally, give me your final thoughts for the evening, man. Tell everybody where they can find you, and plug your sports, man. Get all your stuff off, man.
All right, my name is Wally. Everybody know Wally. Well, Wole, I've been going to the Nigerian name. I am. You can catch me on Twitter. Like I have my own Twitter handle now. I kind of like want to go away from the urban sports scene in terms of my own personal voice. So you can have me at Wole WOLE _USS. So I still have my USS thing. So y'all know I'm still part of USS. We're still together. I just want I may say some wild stuff, but I don't want to say some wild stuff under USS. All right. It can't be that. Like you gotta distinguish the two. Like my man James said, I have a podcast. It's all I have a podcast, but I am as part of 3 individuals. I want to say like I have it. It's myself, Ray, Will. Show's called The Urban Sports Scene. We're on every Tuesday night from 8. I'm gonna say 8. Sometimes we go over 9. We're gonna say 8 Eastern time, but we'll say 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can catch us. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, everywhere you can get a podcast. Every podcast platform be on it. Also, like if you want to listen to us live, just hit us up at www.urbansportscene.com/live-stream. And you can listen to us live at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Matter of fact, after I'm jumping off here, I got to type up some stuff for the show and do some other stuff. So, also, and then we got a football podcast called All Burgundy and Gold Everything. And if you're from the DMV, you know you know what that means. Everything. We don't say every. We don't say every. We say we don't say every.
Yeah, well, you better say something better than the Washington football team. Come on, man.
That's the name of the team, James. We're not changing that name. That's the new name, James. It's a new name.
The Burgundy
Washington football team. Darn it.
Burgundy boys or something. I mean,
we good. Washington football team. All right. They wanted us to change it. They made us change the name. Darn it. We're gonna make sure we don't offend nobody. We ain't offending nobody. You say Burgundy, somebody gonna be like, "Oh man, that's racist."
All right, man. All right, well, hey, man. I'll definitely look for me. What did you say it was? Wole USA?
Yeah,
on Facebook.
Instagram. Twitter is at Wole _USS, and also I'm on Facebook. Urban Sports Scene. I'm there. That's what I mean. Facebook page.
All right, bro. You have a good one, and don't worry, I'll be calling on you again.
You my guy, man. You my guy. My guy.
Man, we get. I want to talk about this March Madness, man. I can't wait till Thursday. I mean, wow.
My Warriors was out, man. My Warriors lost. I was pissed off that. I'm still trying to get over it.
All right, bro. I'll let you later, man. You have a great one.
Have a good one.
All right. Yeah. That was Wole, great young friend of mine. Does a lot of work with the youth. Now we're going to the senior citizens. Dwight, you and I are the same age, so we can kind of talk on the same level here for a minute.
Okay.
I talked to a lot of these younger guys. Of course, younger than me is like 50 and 45.
Yeah.
So it is kind of interesting to get some of their points of view, and not only that, they are the future. You and I are the Twilight Zone. So
there we go. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm going to recall back on some of our experiences as soldiers, the oath that we took, the way that we looked at not only our fellow man, our fellow soldiers, but also even the people that were combatants against us. And usually I find that there's a connection between men that have been in combat or men that have been in service of their country. What did you think about the events of January 6th when we find out that we have not only active duty soldiers, reservists, we have members of law enforcement attacking the capital of the United States, regardless of your political beliefs.
Right.
Do you think that soldiers that participated in these actions should be stripped of their? If it was up to me, I'd give them all dishonorable discharges. But do you think that there should be some type of repercussions for people in the military that show up and participate in these kind of actions?
Absolutely. I'm with you. I think, first of all, they should be stripped of any kind of honors that they've received while they're in the service. And as you say, they violated their oath. They took an oath to protect the Constitution and our country. And they absolutely just destroyed that. So, yeah, they should be. And, there's a lot of discussion about whether or not they should be called back for court martial or whatever. And I think, yes. Because when you join the military, or in many cases they were drafted back in our day, you become part of them for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not. And so I think they should pay dearly for what happened there. I had two emotions. First of all, I was sick to my stomach, especially after I seen the videos of how they did those police officers, and then of course the anger that and now that the Republican Party, 99% of them are backing these people. You've got QAnon in Congress now, in the Republican Party. That's what they've become. And I think I've said this on your other show before, that I think they were always like that. The Republican Party was always like that. They were never inclusive for the black population. So it's just come to fruition. Once Trump got in there and started his crap, they just fell in line and said, "Yes, sir, that's us. That's who we are." And they stated it loud and clear. And I don't think there's no such thing as a Republican Party anymore. Not at all.
You think it's become the party of Trump?
Yeah, I think they've become that. I think they were always that. But I don't know. Somehow it didn't pan out until Trump got elected. And then he started preaching all that, all the hatred, all the division, and they just went along with it because they knew that's who they were. And I'm sure there are exceptions. Maybe I can't even think of his name now. The only one that voted to impeach him. From Utah, Romney. Yeah, I couldn't think of Romney. I don't know why, because he was the son of a governor of Michigan.
Yeah.
But they should. That the Republican Party is no longer, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I guess I'm going to take you for a little further down that street, because, we have Mitch McConnell, who's one day saying that, hey, it was all Trump's fault, but then the next day, when it comes time to impeach him, it's like, oh, well, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. You have Lindsay, talking about, how it's too much money to give people during the pandemic, and also, you have most Republicans saying that $17 an hour, $16 an hour is too much.
Mm-hmm.
And I know out here in California, now right across the street from me here, there's a 3-bedroom apartment for rent, and I believe the rent for that is $3,200 a month.
Yeah.
So if you got a $1,400 stimulus check, You're already
I only
about
pay
two
half
and
a
a half
month.
months. Right. You're about, and that's saying that you're current with your rent. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
so that means that you had to have had a job this last year
Mhm.
that you've been able to go to, or at least it has been able to subsidize your living. So you say things that have never, haven't changed.
Right.
You and I can look back at the old Republican Party reforms of, say, 1968, even though we might not have
Right.
been in this country at that particular time. It
Mhm.
seems like politics have come full circle.
Yeah.
Nobody knows their place. Nobody knows what party is what, and the only thing that
Mhm.
you want to do is make sure that everything is divided into certain zones, whether it's
Yeah.
race, economics, or the future of our country, immigrants.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
so, what? Where did we go wrong, and how can we fix it?
I don't know exactly where we went wrong, and as far as fixing it, it's going to come down to people, and that's people in the Republican Party. You know, the Democratic Party is safe. I mean, we have our problems like any other political party, but it's the people, the voters of the Republican Party are going to have to decide. Are we going to be a divided nation, or are we going to come together and take care of this problem? And the only way to do that is to vote, and to vote people out, whether it's your party or not, that are not doing the job and are continuing to divide us further. Uh, get back to your money deal a while ago. I forget which, I think it was I don't know if it was a senator or a representative, but he come out with a little speech about, well, when I was a young man or a young kid, I worked for $6 an hour back in 1960 or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? They figured out $6 an hour back then was like $24 an hour today. I mean, it was like $24 an hour, yeah, today. So and he's complaining about trying to give people $15 an hour. So in other words, he was making basically $24 an hour back in 1962 or whenever it was, and yet he don't want people now to make $15 an hour, which is basically at the just get you over that poverty line. But it doesn't even do that really. I mean, let's face it. Like he's talking about it. Even here in Michigan, we don't have I know how California is. That's where I went to service from, was Long Beach. And I know how expensive it is out there and how high taxes are, and housing, like you were talking about, apartment for $3,200. But even here in Michigan, a little one-bedroom apartment for somebody single is like $800, $900 a month. And then you got utilities on top of that most of the time. There's a few of them that may pay utilities with that. You got to eat, you got to drive, you got to get to work. $15 an hour, you can't do that. You can't survive on $15 an hour. Not even a single person.
No, there's a reason for the poverty line, but Dwight, I remember in 1968, in E3, $123.80, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
So that didn't, and all the mud and dirt you could eat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
no extra charge for that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of begrudging him his $6 an hour back in 1962, whenever that was.
Absolutely.
But mentioning military service. Another thing that really disgusted me, even though they looked upon a lot different than when we were in the service. Then you had like you had the Women's Army Corps. They were separate. They weren't the same. They were treated a little different. You had women Marines, but when Tucker Carlson came out with that statement about women warfare, I remember one of the most deadliest Viet Cong snipers was a woman.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember, that a lot of the labor that was done on the Ho Chi Minh Trail and some of the fortresses that you saw along the Parrots Beak and going into Cambodia, those were built by women and children.
Yeah.
Okay, so until recently, our country was the only one that didn't have women on the front line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now, out here in San Diego, we have the first woman that was put in charge of an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
You have Senator Duckworth. I believe she had both her legs blown off in a helicopter crash.
Yeah.
How many women helicopter pilots did you see in Vietnam? I don't remember seeing any.
No.
But just for someone that has never been in the military, and this was the same problem that I had with Trump. For someone that has never been in the military, I don't think you have any right to make any disparaging remarks about the military. Period. Your
Absolutely.
thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. That we're talking about women. There's a lot of the women jet pilots now. And as you say, now let's be honest. Most women are not physically strong as a man. I mean, that's just nature.
Yeah.
But
Right.
there's some strong women. Don't get me wrong. There's some very strong women, and it takes us. How do you think I would be? I would never be able to fly a jet.
What about having a baby? What about having twins? What about having a baby?
Yeah, that alone. Anybody that thinks women are weak are just they're idiots. That's all I can say about it. But yeah, women have a place. They absolutely have a place. And they definitely have a place in politics because they're a hell of a lot smarter than these idiots that are running things right now. And that goes for a lot of Democrats also.
Oh yeah, we did not corner the market. Just like the Republicans, we didn't corner the market on stupidity either.
No, hell no, no, not at all, not at all. And that's one of the things when I get a little back and forth with somebody that's followed Trump or or a Republican or whatever. That's one thing I say. I said, when we have a problem with one of our politicians, we let them know. Right now, President Biden is having a hell of a problem down there on the border. He's saying, we got it closed, the border's closed, but yet we're allowing these kids to come over. And, he's in a bind there. He's in a real bind because the Republicans going to jump all over that. Now, at least he's not, just let them come over and just ship them right back home. And the problem is here's my take on this border thing. Until and again, the Republicans will not buy this, but until we start helping those countries where they, where the problems are, and that takes money. And you hear all these people, and I've even had people in my own family say, well, you got to take care of your own first. Well, yeah, I understand that. But you got to take care of the world, too, if you want to keep peace. And so we've got to put some money in some, in Central America to try to, and not just money, but you got to back the right people over there in those countries to get things back in some kind of normal situation. Of course, now I'm talking about them, and we're way from a normal situation in our own country.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because in a lot of ways, we have put money into those countries. I mean, maybe it wasn't the way that it should have been when you look at, what we did with the Contras. Maybe when you look at what we did in Panama with Noriega, you look at what we did in Somalia. So we don't mind pumping money in. The thing of it is that right now, within the current state of the world, nobody has any money. Everybody is sick. This pandemic cares nothing about crossing borders and things like that. But living out here in San Diego, I live 12 miles from the border, from Tijuana. So I see some of the problems, on a daily basis. And then you also have the traffic that's coming in and out of Mexico. I mean, some of these people work, live down here and work in Los Angeles and further up. So there's a lot of commuting and quite frankly, Dwight, I'm not going out in the field and pick no tomatoes. I don't think you're going to drive down, decide to come here from Michigan and help us, with the current strawberry crop. So, I mean, if we don't have people to come across these borders to work for jobs for wages that Americans won't, which I know is wrong, but hey, in the morning, you might want to.
It is what it is.
Right. You might want to have a strawberry with your cereal. You might want to decide that you want, a shrimp scampi, tonight. So I mean, you might want a little sugar in your tea. So I mean, I understand the problems, but the problems didn't start in 2020.
No.
So it's today's problem, but it's a problem that's been building, and you can't solve it today.
It's
kind of like that
situation,
conflict.
that's for sure.
Kind of like that conflict we were in. You could win the battle, but we still lost the war. So
absolutely.
What do you think? We talk about Trump, and today he came out with a message that Ted Cruz and the Senator Hawley, the one that said that the Democrats stole the election, and the stuff that Hawley said. I mean, he was even part of the problem on January 6th. So, what do you think about? What do you think about the future of the Republican Party, and does it scare you, or do you think the election of Biden and Harris maybe set things back on the right course?
Well, I think it has set it back on the right course. That said, that doesn't mean that it's going to just click on and everything's going to be hunky dory. Again, I get back to the Republican voter. The voters in the Republican Party have to decide, are they that racist that they want this nation divided and in turmoil all the time, or are they going to come around and say, we got to accept people. I don't care if you're black, whatever, your sexual orientation. People just, at the heart of everything, most every person on this earth just wants to have a good life, a decent job. They just want happiness. And what's so bad about that? And what happens is people get narrow-minded and they think, they put the black person in one spot. Well, they're all the same. They put sexual orientation. Well, they're not Christian, or they're whatever. But in every society, in every ethnic group, there's probably 10% of that population that are not good people. But they put that. It's like having a family. I'm sure growing up you had families in your neighborhood or whatever that had a bad name. Well, them Them Johnson boys, they're all bad, and probably one of them was, but the other 4 or 5 or how many were decent guys. But that's how they group people together. You know what I'm saying? And until people get away from that, we'll always have some kind of a problem.
I I guess I contribute it to the war and the immediacy of or the expediency of knowing the person beside you and knowing that your life could possibly be in his hands.
Yeah.
But I'm a little confused because to me it would seem that this would be part of normal everyday life. Like you say, one person helps the other. Doesn't matter, whether you're what your sexual orientation is or anything like that.
Right.
And when you look at our generation, talking about me and you, look at all the changes that we've had to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
You can just look at the LGBTQ community.
Mhm.
We didn't know what that was about. I mean,
Yeah.
I had, I knew what the F word was, but of course that's
Yeah.
not part of LGBTQ anymore.
Right.
I knew what L was, and those words to me, those were people that were not normal. Those, like you
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
those are people, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what type of family do they come from? How did they let this happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember, growing up, being very homophobic, wondering, like, because I had a cousin that was gay, and I'm, like,
Mhm.
I'm using that F word.
Yeah.
I'm,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
projecting, I'm projecting that machismo and all like that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so how is it old curmudgeons like us were able to adapt and overcome,
Well,
but yet the real world seems to be stuck a few decades behind?
maybe it gets, maybe it gets back to some of our military background. That you find you really get to know people. Who's in the foxhole or in the bunker beside you. You watch them, how they operate. How they carry themselves, and you respect people. You learn how to respect your fellow man, and so I think the military has a lot to do with that. That said, uh, even without that, as I grew older, I'm like you. I grew up at the same time, and a queer was a queer. You didn't like those kind of people. And of course, the reason before that was because you're going by the good book. What the good book says, or what they said it said. And so, yeah, but I think this aging and living life should change people's outlook, or their their position on how they really look at other people. Whether they're gay or whether they're black, whether they're Asian or whatever ethnicity. Uh, Again, I get back to the same thing. Every person on this earth just wants, sure, there's evil people. I mean, there's a small percentage of people that just, you're never going to change anything. But the 95 to 99% of the people on this earth just want to be happy. They want to live a good life. Excuse me. They just want to live a good life. So that's what I don't understand. What other people don't understand.
uh, hey, Dwight, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. I want the details. How'd you get put in Facebook jail? I spent so much time in Facebook jail. I had to get a new account.
Here's what happened. I posted a picture, and it was just a picture of Hitler giving a speech, and it said something about, how he supposedly said, you lie, tell the people lie enough to people,
right?
If I believe it, blah 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 blah.
Right.
Well, first of all, they said that was partially false. That he didn't say that, and then I guess just because it had a picture of Hitler, it's supposed to be hateful. But I appealed it, and told them, I said, I don't see how that could be. Well, I did. Actually, they don't give you. They don't even let you say anything. You just appeal it, and then somebody decides, okay, you're okay, and that's what
Yeah.
happened. So they let me slide the next day. Actually, the same day, I appealed it. So I got out of that deal. But I won't post any more pictures of Hitler.
I posted a picture of Donald Trump in a KKK uniform and got
Oh
kicked
yeah,
off.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah.
To me, that's just your opinion. That's how you feel about somebody. Uh, that's not promoting hate. To me, it's not. But I guess I guess they just say that the picture, of the KKK is
well, the
saying hate.
picture the picture I actually copied from somebody else's page,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
just put my own caption on it. But
That's
it
what
was
I did.
somebody. Yeah, I mean, it was somebody else's picture. So I mean, if you
Yeah,
put it up there, then I mean, well, anyway,
yeah,
we
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's a mess.
But hey, Dwight, thank you as always. I feel great when I call upon one of my fellow vets and
Yeah,
they answer the call, and it just goes to reinforce,
yeah,
my, uh, you know, evaluations that Vietnam veterans are some of the best men that ever walked the face of the
yeah,
earth.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I feel the same way. And hey, bud, it's good to see you virtually.
yes, sir.
You're
I
looking good.
do.
I'll have to admit that.
Well, I got both my shots. I got the last one on the 2nd of this month. My
Okay.
14-day period was over on the 16th day. And like I tell people, I'm not ready to jump in an airplane yet, but
Did you have the
you know,
Pfizer?
no,
Which one did you have?
I had the Moderna.
Okay, that's what I got one on the 26th of February, but they made us, my wife and I, wait till the 26th of this month, which will be next
Oh,
Friday. So I'll get
okay,
my second one next Friday.
okay, yeah.
So we're doing good.
All right. Well, hey, you be healthy. I wish you and your wife well, and much respect, my brother. Look forward to having you back on the show again.
You betcha. Take it easy, bud.
Thank you. All right. That was Mr. Dwight Smedley. He is a Vietnam veteran also, and always glad to have him on the show. The guest that I missed tonight was Donnie Allen. And Donnie is a little under the weather. He has a couple podcasts of his own, and after speaking all day and his allergies, he just couldn't get with us tonight. But hopefully, I'll be able to get him on with us next week. I wanted to get Donnie on because Donnie is actually lives in Minneapolis. And I wanted to ask him some questions as far as the George Floyd jury selection. And one of the things that Donnie and I may be on opposite sides, and I have to say maybe because he's not here, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but there was an article that was talking about police here in California, and it had to do with them expressing. Trying to see if I can find this. Expressing their religion. Let me. Excuse me one moment here. Okay. The question that I was going to propose was, as a California citizen, I'm for defunding the militarization of the police, and I'm for police reform. Now, when I say demilitarization of the police, I don't think they need another 50 Glocks. I don't think that they need 50 more assault rifles. These things are supposed to be well, when I talk about assault rifles, these things are supposed to be in the hands of specialized forces, such as SWAT teams, maybe assault teams in hostage situations, things of that nature. These people are especially trained in those tactics and in the use of those weapons. There was a time when there were okay, I'll talk about my neighborhood. 2 police officers to a car. You had a tactical shotgun that was posted in the middle between their radio equipment and whatnot. And if they were part of a tactical team or they had some other tactical gear, it was usually located in the trunk. Now, understandably, the world of the criminal has also changed. Whereas back in my day, you might have seen 1 or 2 people with weapons of an assault type or of an automatic type. You do see more of that. There are some instances where the police are outgunned. But once again, if you take that job, you have to be aware that it comes with certain dangers, certain, if you're a steel worker and you're working in a steel mill, you know that you have to be dressed properly for your job. You know that you have to have the proper safety equipment. You have to make sure that the equipment that you're working around, your area is safe. So militarization should only be used in military type circumstances. And I'm not sure that I'm willing to put that in the hands of law enforcement when you look at instances like Waco, for instance. That was something that could have been prevented. You look at some of the other things that's happening. The gentleman that shot 8 black people in church, he was taken to Burger King. The gentleman that killed the 8 Asian people, he was taken in with no type of resistance whatsoever. The young man that killed one man and wounded another actually walked past the policeman, got a bottle of water, and surprisingly, now he cannot be found. So, police reform. This is what I propose. And I use this, once again, calling upon my experience after the military, my experience after incarceration. So I'll start at the foster home level first. I lived in a home called St. Timothy's House for Boys. It was located in Newark, New Jersey, on Franklin Street, and I think at the most there was usually about 6 of us in the house, plus 2 that stayed with the parish priest. The church was, it was run by the Episcopal Church. So let's start there. as a foster child, living, I was required to do, my work at church, whether it was as a choir boy, carrying the incense or the crucifix, or whatever that job entailed during that particular Sunday. And you were also required to learn about the history of the Episcopal Church, of course. Um, didn't have a lot of problems with my schoolwork, but I was kind of a headstrong kid. So eventually, um, when I became an adult, I was turned out of the house, and there wasn't a lot of love in the house, if you know what I mean. It was run by the church, and it was run by an older couple that couldn't really relate to the younger men in the house, especially the young black men in the house. There were uh, at one time it was 4 out of 6, and then it was mostly 3 and 3. But they really were not equipped to deal with uh, the realities of a young black man. Um, the older couple, they had moved here from Germany, actually Austria, I think it was, and they had their European expectations of what young men should be. But of course, those were young European men. They weren't young urban black men. And I'll, we took advantage of their ignorance, as most kids do. But it was not an experience that taught me or put the fear of God in me where I was going to do anything different than I had done before I got in the house. Just like their goal was to get a check every month, my goal was to make sure that every month I got 1 month closer to discharge by whatever means necessary. uh, you know. Part 2. Incarceration. And I probably went into incarceration with a totally different mindset than the average youth. The first time that I had that I was actually put in a state penitentiary, Ohio State Penitentiary, I was a combat veteran. I had already survived my juvenile gladiator schools, including Rawway Penitentiary. So this was not some place that scared me straight. These were not individuals that I was afraid of. These were individuals that I thought were okay. I'll use the word because they were my heroes. Um, as a young man, I think I've mentioned this before. When I watched Saturday morning TV, I rooted for the bad guy. I didn't root for Hopalong Cassidy and the Lone Ranger and those guys. No, I wanted to be the bad guy. So, in a sense, be it good or bad, and I've said this before too, I've actually lived my dreams. I wanted to become a criminal. That's what I became. I wanted to be good, a good at my job. That's what I became. I wanted to have respect among my peers. That's what I got. So, as far as living a childhood dream, it might have been rather warped, but that's what I was doing. I became the person that I wanted to become. And let me repeat that. Became the person that I wanted to become, not the person that you wanted to be me to be, not the person that my parents wanted me to be, not the person that my teacher. I became the person that I wanted to be. Good, bad, indifferent. I was me, and I'm still me. Just like I stepped on some toes then, I probably stepped on some toes now. But every one of those things went into making me the person that I am. It also enables me to see, the mistakes of others and my own mistakes. I try to admit to my own mistakes, and if I see someone else making the same mistakes that I did, I give them my opinion and keep on stepping. I'm not going to preach to you. It didn't work. It didn't. Maybe that's what it takes for you, but maybe uh, maybe I don't have that energy left, and maybe that's wrong. But at this particular time, I can only tell you my experiences, lead by example, and try in some small way to maybe give you something to think about. Now, at no time did I say I was trying to make you over or want you to be somebody that I thought that you should be, because that would be hypocritical. Um, when I work with incarcerated veterans, when I talk to young people, um, I'm not trying to look down on you and tell you that I'm better than you are. What I'm trying to tell you is that I've been through the same struggles that you're through. This is what worked for me. This is what didn't. Take what you need in order to make your life better. Don't try to emulate me. Be you. Um, I probably got a little bit off the subject there because we were talking about police reform. And once again, when I talk about police reform, I look back to my younger days, and one of the places that I used to like to go to just kind of get away from the bullshit of the neighborhood uh, was the boys' club. Another place that I went to before I even got that far along in my youth was the local neighborhood youth center, the neighborhood center that we had in the housing project. And the kids went down there. We played basketball. We played games. And you know, regardless of whether you're not, you and so liked each other, or you might not even have been friends. But when you were at the center, it was a place of neutrality, and you didn't air your differences at the community center. So there were safe zones. Um, I understand, the accessibility of firearms has also tended to make things a lot more violent. You might see a guy get stabbed. Maybe a guy got shot with a zip gun. You know, uh, Real bad beating. A lot of those. Lot of those. But as far as shootings, as teenagers, we didn't have a lot of those. Uh, as you got older, things like that happened, but teenagers, no. Um, Before I went in the service, I still had never carried a gun. A lot of disputes were handled up close and personal, uh, usually with your hands. That's kind of the way things went. Nowadays, you empty a clip in the house, you don't hit the person that you're aiming for. You get 4 murder cases, for somebody's kids that you've hit, or somebody that's been shot by mistake. So, uh, you know, but police reform also meant the local police athletic league, um, the gym, Pearl Street Mission, where guys went down to learn how to box, the YMCA, where guys box as well as played different sports. And all these things were supervised by off duty policemen. Most of us knew at least one city policeman by his first name. I don't think that exists anymore either. Um, but I would like to see more. I want to say boots on the ground, but boots on the ground does not mean the same in 2021 as it meant in 2000, well, as it meant in 1972. Um, I would love to see more police within the neighborhood, but police that know the neighborhood, police that at one time, we also had, I believe, which I believe is the false belief that police should look like us. Well, usually the police that look like us were the ones that did the most bullying in the neighborhood. I also found that as I got older, that most of the time they were also the most corrupt. But that's a different situation. So, getting back to the original premise, I believe in the demilitarization of the police, and I also believe in police reform. Just like any person has more than one God-given talent. I think that as a policeman, you should also know something about the word and the practice of diplomacy, and knowing when to defuse a situation, knowing when just your presence is enough to take that to the next level. But I do see my brother here from the San Diego Black Panther Party, brother Robert Ward Williams. I'm going to turn the program over to him and the San Diego Black Panthers, as I usually do about this time of night. Brother Williams, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm doing good, brother.
I was talking a little bit about police reform versus demilitarization of the police, something that we've talked about on numerous occasions. I was also talking a little bit about the George Floyd's jury selection, and in general, trying to just talking about how we have to get out of this rut, and I'm calling it a rut because we constantly stay in it. It's not something that we're digging our way out of, but it seems like we're staying in it, and we're kind of content to stay in this particular path because it's maybe as I was talking with my first guest, maybe because it's become comfortable to us, we're still trying to pass. I was looking at the HR1 bill. I guess it's better known as the John Lewis bill, and I was trying to compare that to the Civil Rights Bill of 1968. And brother, I have to say, I really don't see that much difference. But maybe it's just me.
Well, I do want to say that it does strike a lot of similarities, but this goes back to what I say a lot of times when we talk about our fight for human rights versus civil rights. Um, and so it's a lot of work that just has to be done. And in regards to the militarization, see, we're kind of up against a double-edged sword here because there's certain things that just continue to happen and certain stances that continue to be made that causes, I would just say, the government to be able to attempt to use and to me a lot of these things may even be spearheaded by certain forces within the intelligence community, but you have certain things and actions that are being taken that causes them to continue to justify the action in operation in which they're going. I would say one of them we can refer right back to today, where you had multiple people killed in a supermarket in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, today. And I don't know if y'all discussed that. And
Yeah,
I actually,
no, we didn't. I was just, we didn't. There wasn't a lot of details, and right
right,
now it's coming in. 10 people were killed. But but once again, I come back to the thing where uh, 10 people killed. And we look in was it Georgia where the guy was able to buy the gun and kill 8 people the same day.
right, right.
So I mean, can you imagine a black man going into a gun store and saying, well, can I get this today? There's no layaway plan. I mean, I mean, usually blacks, at least according, to the other side, we want to get everything on the layaway plan because we don't, but that's another discussion. But, so, uh, Brother Williams, what's the chances of you going to almost any state in the union and getting uh, a, a weapon and being able to take it? Well, this is more like takeout. I mean, should he have got a sausage sandwich and a milkshake with it? I mean,
Right. And you're right. From that standpoint, the chances have I mean, statistics show, no matter how they try to paint the picture, statistics show that that is just not in our nature to do those type of acts of, crazy acts in general. And a lot of it goes back to even what I will just refer to white privilege and entitlement. Unfortunately, a lot of this is just a stem to that. But as a result of the quote unquote perceived perception that the black community continues to get, was the premises behind, the black identity extremism. And one of the things that I wanted to just even bring up on that same note, dealing with the Boulder, the shootout that took place and the killing that took place. I used to live in Aurora, Colorado, by the way. Um, and so I'm very familiar with the locations this stuff took place. There was a um, a document that was released February the 19th of this year into the military called the Stand Down Address of Extremism in the ranks in the U.S. forces ranks. And within this document, basically, they call for the eradication of extremism within the military. The problem with this kind of goes back to when we talked about the storming of the Capitol and the repercussions that would have on the people in general and black people in particular. And I say that because, again, with all of the things that take place, is black identity extremism is still considered the greatest threat. So from that standpoint, when you look at this document, and they were even referred to neo-Nazi groups in the document, but I guarantee you the people that will be targeted within this are going to start with us black folks. And I can and not only that, here in San Diego, one of the biggest concerns I obviously have is where does this put the Black Panther Party when it applies to quote unquote groups that are considered extremism. And so for instance, the Navy within this document has basically put out any organization or affiliation that has to do um, with what they refer to as discrimination, as it applies to sex, creed, race, gender, and also this extends to social media content. Now, mind you, it is oftentimes where people will state their distaste within the political system. It is oftentimes that people will talk about when it comes to police brutality, how we need to be prepared to defend ourselves, or we need to be prepared to challenge the system. That can be viewed as extremism. So the extremism brush is a stroke, and that broad stroke will cause associations with, I would say, the Black Panther Party, with organizations that have made protests like INFACT, and that would even tie back into other militant, quote unquote, militant organizations. And before you know it, your connection over social media and your footprint over social media could have you hemmed up in a position of where now you're getting kicked out of the military. And the problem I have with these kind of situations is now what you have is a situation where the military is reaching in, and as a result of what happened at the Capitol, the idea here is that they recognize that within the ranks, and this is not geared toward us, but within the ranks, that the ranks have been compromised, or so to speak, in their mindset, with people that are operating like sleeper cells, so to speak. And
But
so
but
from
but
go
uh,
ahead.
but Brother Williams, didn't we have this same scare tactic in the early 2000s, especially, when they were talking about gang affiliations and being brought into the military, and they were talking about, how gangs were bringing this back and incorporating it into their tactics against the, I mean, so,
Yeah.
this is not nothing, this is not a new scenario that they're presenting us with. Maybe what they're doing is getting a bigger brush.
Yeah, they're getting a bigger brush. The problem with that bigger brush and the broad stroke of that brush is that it typically affects us first, our people first. It's like when you talk about the fact that now they're going to try to make certain types of protest crimes federal crimes. They're using the examples of Black Lives Matter protests as the poster child for these kind of situations. And mind you, the majority of the crimes that have been committed at Black Lives Matter protests have been by groups by either like Antifa or other groups that basically have came into those protests and used that as a platform to spearhead whatever its situation they wanted to do. It
Or the
wasn't Black Lives
police.
Matter or
Or
the
the
police.
police. Yeah, don't
Right,
forget the police in this now.
correct. But these kind of things are going to be used as covers to basically come after us first. And I can't help but to feel like that would be the whole position. And for them to try to weed out us having access, or our people, anyone within our community that are in positions of power or authority, weed them out if they are associated or affiliated in any capacity with people that are considered to be extremists. It's like going to my Facebook page. All of a sudden, if I were to basically have a friend on my Facebook page that happens to be somebody in a high political position, at this point in this juncture, now all of a sudden they could be flagged as extremists because of their affiliation. So to me, these kind of things just bring about another opportunity for them to come down on our efforts to stand up, our efforts to make change. And the thing about that goes into the fact that the double-edged sword is when we talk about police reform, we talk about uh, uh, dealing with the militarization of the police. We've addressed those in the past. We also have to look at it from the standpoint of now when you talk about defunding the police, and you also talk about when police officers do certain things that, crimes against the community, now we should be able to go after their pensions. They've attached certain type of information or certain type of criteria within this supplement, to where basically military personnel, if they get convicted of federal crimes that tie them into protest, that tie them into extremism, they could lose their benefits. So you're talking about people that are currently in the military as well as people that are out of the military. They're because of the actions and us attempting to go after the police pensions and saying that police officers, when they commit crimes in the community against people in the community, their pensions should be stripped. Now all of a sudden they're extending that same type of rhetoric and wordplay to the military if military personnel are found to be related to extremism. So all of a sudden now you on this, you got disability or you get retirement from the military and you get hit with a federal crime and some kind of way it gets tied into an extremist act. Now they're trying to say that that can jeopardize your military retirement. So you see how they hit us with both sides. Well, you asked for this and you want this. Well, as a result, we're gonna also come at you this way.
Yeah, I actually had that conversation with a fellow Vietnam vet just before you came on, and one of the things that we discussed was precisely what you said. If you are in the military or you're retired from the military and you get caught up in events such as January 6th, then I think that you should be immediately given a dishonorable discharge. I think you should lose any military benefits you have because you did take an oath when you put on that uniform. Now, whether it's the first year of your enlistment or the year before you died, once you take that oath, there is no giving it back. In other words, so if you commit, they're talking about sedition, which it sounds good, but I have yet to see a white man in this modern day, regardless of his political views and how off center they may be, being charged with sedition. Now, it might start as sedition, like first degree murder, but end up as a misdemeanor jaywalk, charge. But it sounds good on the outside. But my thing is when you talk about soldiers and you talk about people that supposedly, like I say, take an oath. As I guess I'm old school because if I give you my word, that means something to me. I don't, in today's context, that might not mean a lot, but in my day, and to me, if I say James is going to do this, then hey, good, bad, indifferent, I'm going to do that. I like. I understand where you when you say it all comes back on us, and it usually ends up being a gateway to our prosecution. But somewhere doesn't there have to be a line drawn in the sand? And if you're a military person and you go against that oath, be you black, white, blue, shouldn't there be some type of repercussions? I mean,
I do agree with that, but my concern again has to do with the broad stroking. So, for instance, let me give you some of what was listed under the behaviors, and I apologize for not being on the show earlier in case some of this came up. Prohibited behaviors have to do with could do fundraising, demonstrating or rallying as a member of the organization, recruiting, training, organizing, or leading members, distribution of material, including online posts, knowingly wearing gang colors or clothing. Now it throws in gang colors. You see, having tattoos or body markings associated with gangs or organizations, or otherwise engaging in activity in furtherance of the objective of such gangs or organizations that are detrimental to good order, discipline, mission accomplishment, or incompatible with military service. That is super broad. Now, these are considered prohibited behaviors, which basically will put you under these guidelines. And the problem I have with that is that, again, association can come into play, and that association falls right into what's referred to as extremist or extremist
Well,
organizations.
well, how did you get in the military if you're a known gang member? That I mean, we have to kind of start there. I mean, things are different. When I went in the service, I was a known gang member. We treated things different back in the '60s than we do now. That was kind of the choice that I had to make. Either I could stay in the gang life or I could go in the military. So we found that doesn't work. This wasn't something. I mean, this was something that was proved back in 50 years ago. This isn't something that just happened today. So if they bring you into the military knowing that you're in a gang, which goes back to, like I said, that ruling, what was it, in 2006 or 7, when they were talking about the number of Latin gangs that had been able to get into the military through waivers or whatever. If you're breaking the law by, letting these people into the military, then you kind of have to be ready to accept that crop. If you plant bad seed, you can't plant bad seed and get good seed out of it. That it just doesn't work like that.
And again, I agree. I agree when you narrow it down. The problem I have is like when I look at the situation, is that a lot of people to be proven guilt. I mean, to be guilty until they're proven innocent. And so, from that standpoint, I'm only referring to the examples that I know of for people that associate with organizations like the Black Panther Party that will be out feeding and clothing the community. The point is unfortunately certain branches of Panthers, affiliations with Panthers in other places that don't necessarily operate like the Black Panther Party did in the '60s, like we have operated and moved, also are tied in. So from that standpoint, just because of some foolishness that may be happening with a singular individual across the country will create an association that all of a sudden now causes a person to be getting ready to get kicked out of the military here in San Diego who don't have any association or affiliation directly with that other individual. But nonetheless, it can be used as a gateway to come after certain people. And all of a sudden now you're guilty before you're proven innocent. And so, you're sitting here fighting for your allegiance and fighting for your rights to continue to move forward. And it's like a film that was in the works that was unfortunately never got released yet, but it still may. That was actually going over the history of the San Diego Black Panther Party, and the title of the film is American Patriots. And so, from that standpoint, you actually have old school Panthers standing up and saying, it is our patriotic duty to stand and fight oppression and all forms. And that even goes back to why we say all power to the people. But consider that this kind of talk is considered extremism. So, that's to me the issue I have with it is basically the broad stroking. Because they reference groups like the neo Nazis and the KKK in the group, but and it doesn't. I hadn't directly references the Panther Party, but I just know how these things typically can play out.
Yeah, I
That's just really
definitely.
my point.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, it can be used as a gateway, and we found that anything that can be used as a gateway has always been used, especially against people of color. To go a little bit further with some of the things that are happening, talk to us a little bit about these different voting restrictions that the GOP wants to put on our people since this latest elections, and what do you think should be our retort?
Well, I'm not real familiar with a lot of the voting restrictions. I haven't studied that a
Well,
whole
like
lot.
well, for instance, you have a bill in Georgia where it's illegal to give someone that's standing in a voting line uh, food or water.
Gotcha, gotcha.
You have I believe it's in Arizona, uh, might be Texas, but I believe it's in Arizona where they want to take away your mail-in voting unless you have a very specific, like you're in the hospital, you're on your deathbed or something like that. Texas, of course, we have numerous. They also want to put restrictions on mail-in voting. They also want to have a voter ID. Um, just a few of them. You have them from Kansas to Georgia to even Michigan is trying to do things to subvert the black vote in the sense of your registration, when you can register. I think one state went so far as they don't want to vote on Sunday. I mean, just there's some things that seems like to me we're back in the year of my birth, 1947. I'm still kind of waiting for there to be separate menus and separate entrances into our restaurants using the pandemic as an excuse.
Right, and I would just say from that standpoint, kind of goes right back to us talking about the of just what happens to us as a result of dealing with things from the standpoint of civil rights. Because from that stance, we have to recognize that even with the public and dealing with democracy, certain aspects of electoral and politics, voting is basic privilege. And from that standpoint, being able to participate in the due process of people coming in positions of power, they can dial that. And so, how do we go about addressing that collectively across the board when little bitty things can constantly be used and amplified to cause folks to lose their voting rights, or cause people's votes to be cast or thrown or rejected? So, I think you know, I think basically when he was basically coming out of office, when things was work spearheading the way they were going at the beginning of this year, a lot of this kind of these kind of things because of a lot of the loopholes that his party and his is attempted to use to try to keep him in office have just caused to turn it right around and say what these are the kind of things we need to up on, because as a result, this is what gave him the edge and the leeway to try to get those certain lawsuits pushed, in from state to state, almost costed the United States to have to get some. And it almost becomes to a where although the laws are supposed to work unilaterally in the favor of the people, there are certain processes and certain aspects to where people learn how to manipulate the law extremely to their advantage. And when you have these type of situations, it's like they have to, they buckle down, and it has more of an effect across the broader the people than anything else. It's like dealing with the weapons laws. Oftentimes, when a criminal is committing a crime, when you have, like we talking about these shooters, they are going to kill people no matter what. But the way that it typically gets addressed is that with the population, the actual people that do obey the laws, from being able to defend and protect themselves. criminal activity is typically countered by just more laws that are going to target, specific populations that are not the ones actually doing this in the. A lot of times we talk about these mass shootings and they want to take guns away from the population. That is not affecting these mass shooters. Mass shooters, it makes it hard for everybody to get a firearm, but at the same time, is it actually solving the problem? No, because the problem is much deeper than that. It's not about the guns. It's about the, I would say, the dysfunctionality of what in the behavior patterns and the social illnesses that are accommodating people's access to ways of self-destructive behavior. And so you to get down to the root cause of what creates these oppressive conditions that cause people to explore in the first place, and the misassociations that happen, and stop thinking that, and going after it in the wrong direction. Because to me, it's basically just using fear tactics and getting people to accept fear and as legislation that addresses fear, so to speak. And that to me is just window dressing. When you go after what creates instead of going after the actual problem, then you're doing window dressing. And when you talk about career politicians, to them it's all about creating laws and bringing up bills and creating new legislation. It's just all about the legislative process. It's not about actually fixing a problem. It's about just creating window dressing. Honestly, ends up mostly targeting our community in terms of the ones that are being suppressed as a result of this stuff. Because people that learn law and study law and have higher degrees of education, they find ways they can work around this in the first place.
Um,
But that's my thoughts on it.
I've a friend. I actually the book that you were talking about. The what was it? The Enemy That You Know. That you were
The
talking about that you
devil,
read. The devil. I saw some other people that were talking about that, and I'm getting ready to get that on my Audible right now. But I'd like to talk a little bit about that. The devil. Um, there was something in there that I found rather interesting, and I will admit I had never known this. I had to look it up a little bit more, and that was that 40% of slave owners or holders were white women, and I never
right?
realized that. I never realized that until which as I heard more of you talking about it, I started delving into it a little bit. So which eventually made me want to buy it. But can you tell me some of the lessons that you might have I mean that was something that I didn't know. Can you tell me some of the lessons that you might have gleaned from that book that you didn't know or really comprehend until you read it?
Well, to me, is actually, and no offense to it, is almost to me like a watered down version of the Republic of New Africa. If you're familiar with that organization, because basically what the Republic of New Africa is about, and is still about, is basically saying that in order for us to have true power in this country, we have to consolidate. Now, the Republic of New Africa basically fought for what they were referring to as to be five states to create independent states within the United States for Black people. And in the late '60s, that organization was actually very powerful from that standpoint. The first president was Robert F. Williams, who also, there's a book that was written about him called Negroes with Guns, but he got the
Right.
Revolutionary Action Movement. And so when I look at that book, it's, to me, a lot of it just goes back to a lot of the principles and logistics and things that works when it comes to us consolidating power for ourselves. And what it does is it just details circumstances and situations that show you how why things were the way they were, why we should operate from this standpoint and give you bits of information that just kind of go into facts that a lot of the general public, as it applies to us black people, just didn't know about the political process and didn't know about, how to address and deal with oppression. And then it just, gives examples of victories from that standpoint. And when I read it, it really just brings me right back down to, certain aspects of what was happening with the Republic of New Africa, which again can be considered extremism, because now all of a sudden you telling a population of people to consolidate their power, which is basically also called black nationalism. So when you talk about black nationalism, are you not now being exclusive? Are you not now saying that I need to focus on generating wealth and power for my people? And in order for us to circulate and create dollars within a black community, we have to start now working together. We have to start now excluding others, not for the sake of hate, but for the sake of building up wealth in our power base so that we can actually have a voice. This even goes back to some of the foundating principles within the Black Panther Party before it was the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, going back to Louds County, Alabama. So the symbol of the panther had to do with getting our people to recognize what what candidates would help and aid us in consolidating our power and giving us a voice to be able to choose how the political process operates in the best interest of black people. It is not to say that we hate anybody. It is not to say that you don't do what's right for you in other communities. But what you have to recognize, and going back into that book, is that when it talks about and refers back to the devil, it just basically says, look, go back home. It basically says, from that standpoint, as we spread ourselves thin, then we also allow the process to be used against us, because I would just use a place like here in San Diego as an example. When you make up less than, what is it, 4% of the population, there's very little that can be done as a concentrated effort of us to make headway in a system that is dominated by everybody else. So you find ways to consolidate your power. And when you do so, like for instance, if you take an area like Atlanta that could be used as a focal point, then there would be no stopping us in terms of what we can do. Now we have to just start addressing our behavior patterns and start addressing our ills that we bring. Because mind you, no matter what ethnic background you have, there are certain aspects of fascism, or certain aspects of emulating oppressive natures that will cross over and have you doing some of the same things that the oppressor has done to you. So we have to clean that part up as well, obviously. But I would just like to say, as it applies to the devil, that the idea here is black nationalism. So black nationalism, like you say, is not nothing new. That goes back to Stokely Carmichael, emphasizing what was referred to as black power in the 60s. When that phrase was coined and started being used by Mukasa Ricks, it was not meant, and never was meant to be a symbol of hate. It was basically saying, look, and it's even Fred Hampton would go into it and saying black power for black people, white power for white people, brown power for brown people. So all it was addressing was the fact that we must also consolidate our power and start unifying around issues and unifying around a dynamic that will put us in a position of power. And that it is a form of black nationalism. But again, that can be considered extremism. You see? And that's my issue with that. And now I'm going to give you a term as a result of that I think is important that the people need to know. And it's a little wordy, but I would refer to it as symmetrical pressure, because the illusion of symmetrical pressure goes into the psychological projection that oppression looks the same at all angles. That's what symmetry deals with. And this is often the go-to when a white person identifies with some form of oppressive action. But the thing is on the look at that issue is that they are still able to blend back in as a white person, in their environment, even though an oppressive act may have happened to them, it's not collectively happening to the group. So oftentimes and this is what we definitely encountered 2020, the year 2020, just as a result of COVID-19, as a result of all of the economic hardship that people had to face across the board, folks started to identify with the conditions that we have always identified with in the Black community. But as them identifying with those conditions, it got misconstrued, and a lot of them felt like they can identify with us. And so therefore, um, symmetric oppression came up oftentimes as a lot of them tried to say, we feel your pain. They're dealing with individual acts or individual moments to where they felt the same pain. But again, they have the ability to go right back into the community. They go right back into the white, as being white male, being considered the majority, so to speak, and escape the conditions that we cannot escape. But we don't have that privilege. And so that concept is an illusion, and oftentimes is used against us by the white class from that standpoint. And I'm not saying any of these things to garnish or draw up hate. It's to go into the fact that, just like Charles Blow talks within that book, and how we're talking now about the fact that what we're doing is getting our people to recognize the fact that we have to come together, we have to unify, we have to consolidate our workload amongst each other. And to some people, that looks like exclusion. And when it looks like exclusion, then it can also look like extremism. And when it looks like extremism, now you get compared to the KKK or the neo Nazis. And that is just blatantly wrong. And that's just the principle I'm sitting on with that.
Yeah. For any of those that may have missed it or didn't know, there is a review on PBS where they actually talk to the author and they talk about the book. I kind of ran across it by accident. That was the reason why I mentioned it. But it was a very, very good show on PBS. So that I watched it here on PBS in San Diego, which kind of surprised me. Like I said, it was probably only a couple of days after you had mentioned it to me on a Monday. So that if you get a chance to watch it, make sure you watch it. It's a very good program. Wasn't a lot of. I mean, she actually solicited a lot of his opinions and valued parts of the book, rather than try to make it a point of hatred. But Brother Williams, as always, love having you on the show. Love talking to you about what's happening with us here in San Diego. Why don't you give us your final thoughts, any updates you might have for us, and thank you once again for joining the show. We always appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom.
All right. Well, I do want to say that if you want to reach the San Diego Black Panther Party, we actually have a website, which is blackpantherpartysd.org. That's blackpantherpartysd.org. You can reach us through our website. We also are findable through Facebook. Just hit us up on Messenger, and we'll get back to you. Our goal is just to raise the political consciousness of our people and to get more of us involved in the work that needs to be done so that we can have the adequate access to conditions that can fight oppression, and for us to hold ourselves accountable to the fact that we must be willing collectively to do more. Because when you just have a few people fighting the fight and you have the majority of people on the sideline, and honestly, it's just hard to ever get to a position where you're able to outpace the pace of oppression in any form or fashion. Because what happens is we ride these waves. You have short progress made, and then and things go, and the ship goes down, and then it rides back up, and then it goes back down, and we continue to see from that standpoint history repeating itself. And so we have to put an end to that. We have to be able to tackle things to the point to where we're making significant new headway. So with that, I want our people to just continue to study, continue to grow, continue to build, and continue to stay active. All power to the people.
Thank you so much, Brother Williams. Look forward to talking to you next week.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank all our guests tonight. Brother Dwight Smedley, my brother in arms, and shout out to Wale. I've been trying to get you on the program, man. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, and you always shoot straight from the hip. Thank you, everyone, for joining us once again on another Monday. We look forward to talking to you next week, right here on To an Imperfect Union. Have a good week, everyone.